Good evening. I'm Socrates Garrett, and we're broadcasting live from right here in Jackson, Mississippi, the heart of the deep South, right here in the African-American-owned broadcasting studio. We believe digital.com, our own platform. And so it's critically important that in the African-American community, we control the narrative. I look forward to receiving opportunities to show and advertise your products for goods and services and to move your brand along in this community. We're broadcasting live on Facebook. When We Believe Digital Podcast, go to Roku and download our app, and We Believe Global, with shows like this to bring articulate, intelligent conversations and dialogue to our platform. So I'm here to continue sounding the alarm. This is how the South is going to rise again. Good evening, and welcome to Socrates Garrett Live. We're broadcasting live right here from Jackson, Mississippi, in the heart of the deep, deep South, Mississippi, with a population of less than 3 million people. 40+% of those people happen to be African American. I'm not sure statistically about the other ethnic groups. We have a large cadre of Native Americans with the Choctaw headquarters that was originally up in Kosciuszko, Mississippi, when this was the Choctaw Nation. You know, once in Mississippi, the Indians had all of their headquarters were here, and Mississippi was mostly of Native Americans, like the rest of the USA, where Indians roam. And so the Choctaw Nation was defeated, and now they relegated to a section of land up in Philadelphia, Mississippi, the hometown of Charles Evers, where they reside there on the appointed land that they were given. And so Mississippi, one history lesson for the world. We've come through so much. You know, there's a difference in the way people were treated in Mississippi versus the rest of the country. And we're going to get into that in a little bit later on in the show. But first, if you're watching us on Facebook, then we want you to share this program with your friends and family and send us stars. We need your support. There's no other station that's putting out the kind of information that we are here at We Believe. Information that'll make a difference and that you can use. Because if you don't know where you came from, you will not know where you're going. Now, if you're watching us on YouTube, then go on and subscribe to the program. We need your subscription. We're in the midst of a subscription campaign, and so your support would be appreciated. If you're watching us on our very own platform, WeBelieveDigital.com, you'll notice that we're a little bit different. There are categories there that you can choose to see the kinds of programs that you want to look at, much like Netflix and others, Showtime. You can either choose to watch what's live, or you can see what was pre-recorded. On the inspiration, you can go back and hear Reverend Bishop Ronnie Crudup in 2021. And see what that was like, or you could watch him live on Sunday mornings when he comes on. If you want sports shows, then you choose that category and you go in and get yourself updated in what's going on in sports. And a shout out to Deion Sanders. I tell you, he said he was coming. That's what he told everybody in Colorado, that he was coming. And by God, my granddaddy would say he came. And he shocked the world and beat the team that played for the national championship, TCU. And just an outstanding performance by the players and coaches. And Coach Prime, you are to be saluted, sir, for a job well done. Now, if you scroll down on our website a little bit more, you will come to the internet radio station, We Believe Radio. You click there and you will be able to listen to some soul music, contemporary gospel, and also some talk shows. from 1 to 4 o'clock in the afternoon, you will be able to hear the Tavis Smiley Show that's being syndicated right here with us. And we appreciate you, Tavis Smiley, for allowing, we believe, the opportunity to carry your outstanding show 5 days a week. We had an opportunity to meet Tavis when he was down here with Cornel West at the rally sponsored by the NAACP to protest the brutality in Rankin County, where the goon squad just really abused African Americans and put them in the hospital, and reminded me of days I thought were gone, but they are still here in Mississippi. And so all of those things are available to you here at We Believe. We need your support. A lot of things are changing at We Believe. This show right here, we've enjoyed it tremendously, but you know, we're being asked now to syndicate our show on the national scene, and that's important. And so we're going to become Doc and Sock pretty soon, as soon as our graphics people work all the kinks out, and we will be seeing us there. And that's rightfully so, because our co-host, Dr. Henderson, plays such a prominent role and has such a large array of information and knowledge and statistics that you won't want to miss Doc and Sock. But that doesn't mean that, you know, we're going to do less shows, because I will begin to do Socrates Garrett Live and have interviews like the one I just had a few minutes ago with the Associate Director of the Diabetes Foundation here in Jackson, Mississippi. We're going to do more of that. And then Doc is going to have his own private show as well, where he's going to organize and don't criticize. And he's going to tell you how to change your condition in 30, 60, or 90 days if you just listen. He's one of the most sought after speakers in the world. So looking forward to all of these wonderful changes that are going on at We Believe Studios. And we're going to stop now, and we're just going to get right into our program. Doc, how have you been?
Well, I've been doing fine, sir.
Well,
I've been doing fine.
That's a good thing. You look like you're doing 100.
Thank you. Well, not quite. I checked it before I left the office. I'm only doing 98%.
98%.
98%.
Got somebody said, got to have 100, Doc.
Got to have 100.
Got to have 100. Now, Doc, I'm looking forward to the Doc and Sock show, and I guarantee you that statistically, and I've asked a friend of mine to provide me with some information so that I will be commiserable to where you are in your information, because it just blows me away. On our last show, that you wanted to explain to me that Abraham Lincoln's wife had some challenges with dementia and other things. How in the world did you know that?
Well, I learned that not in school, because they don't teach that in school. I learned many years ago that if you want to learn something about your opponents, you most certainly you won't find it in a textbook. So I did some research as a graduate student, and private and individual reading, old newspapers, periodicals, and other research where people did dissertations, master's degrees on a variety of economic, political subjects, and so on. That's where I get most of my information. I call it first-class information, primary information, not hearsay, but well-documented sources.
Well, we're going to get into that, and we're going to challenge your information and your learning and your readings, because I think there is a difference in the Europeans of the South and the Europeans of the North. And I want your opinion about that.
Well, I'm going to tell you the truth about it. There is a difference, territorial difference. There's a difference in their performance and their beliefs in how to reach the same goal. To give you an example, the Southern Europeans during the 1800s up until 1865 believed in actually having live, active slaves on their plantations in the South. Their brothers and cousins up in the northern part of the country condoned slavery and the money that they could obtain from the products that their brothers and sisters produced through slavery, and that made both of them rich. The only people in the North that protested against slavery were the top echelon politicians and a few what we call industrial captains that wanted to make more money by abolishing slavery and taking over the South. The South said, no, we can't do that. We want to maintain our dominance. We want to keep slaves, and we care nothing about the human condition. You Northerners already have enough money. We enjoy what we have. We don't have to work. All we have to do is keep others working. We have to party, and we have people to do anything we want, free of charge, and we don't want to change.
Now, Doc, let me understand this. We call both groups Europeans.
Yes.
But did they come from the same part of Europe? Were there outlanders, or were there a difference here in the belief structure? But they all Europeans. But why would one group be more brutal than the other group?
Well, they were just the same, except you find that when you have the person there physically, in order to maintain and control him, you do have to beat him in place. In the northern part, when they got those same black people that escaped slavery, they treated them the same way. They locked them into various communities in small places with 4 and 5 and 10, 15 in one little room or apartment. They did them just like they were doing in the South. Initially, they couldn't vote. They couldn't buy property. They had to work for less than what we call a livable wage, and they discriminated against the black people and the darker hue that were coming from other parts of the world, Africa, Middle East, and other parts initially. And they did that up until the 1960s, per se.
Now, Doc, during the slave trade, blacks were taken to different parts of the country. But I'm told now that in Brazil, that a black man can go into Brazil now and feel the absence of prejudice, that there is no discrimination there. I've been wanting to go to the festival down in Rio Grande, and they tell me that I won't feel any prejudice down there at all. What do you think about that?
Well, that is a big lie.
Okay.
Anywhere black people go, anywhere in the world, even in areas where they are in the majority, there is discrimination. Black people, anywhere in the world, don't own and control their economic, religious, political, and leadership positions in the areas where they are in the majority. So if you don't control those 5 areas, you are discriminated against, even if you allow yourself to be. And that's why black people throughout the world are in a position where they are very concerned about their existence because of their lack of actions, their lack of collective bargaining among themselves and forming what we call coalitions with each other, pooling their resources, starting businesses, and buying from each other. The black man has been so well contained psychologically that he believes that he can't be independent. He believes that he can't own his own businesses, but history begs to differ. Black folks have owned every kind of business you can think of prior to the 1960s. Since the 1960s, the few blacks that owned major businesses up until about 1980 have lost them. There were many blacks in America, north, south, east, and west, that owned hotel chains, car companies, new dealerships, all kinds of economic ventures, office buildings downtown in the big cities. And by the end of that period, around the late 1990s to about 2010, they lost it all. Many sold it out to white folks. Many went bankrupt. And that 2008 and 9 period where you had that serious recession. Those that hadn't lost it before then lost their economic wherewithal in 2009 to 2011.
Now, times were hard.
What you mean times were hard?
Well, times were hard. Times were difficult. Black man experiences were traumatic. But yet, we still were able to achieve. But today, Doc, the black man does not seem to be achieving at the rate of his ancestors.
Well, that's because of his fault. The black man today, the black female today, love others more than they love themselves. Most black people in America, most black people in the world believe in two things. They want to be white and they want to integrate with white. Therefore, you're losing your integrity, you are losing the desire to have your economic ability that is commensurate with others. When you get money, you buy it on what we call, you spend it on consumer items. When white folks get money, they invest in something where they can use the black people's money to make them richer.
Are you advocating the separation of the races, Doc?
No, I'm not. I'm advocating black independence. I don't care nothing about black people owning their own banks, their own schools, their own churches, their own businesses, their own bus companies, their own police forces, their own communities, their own subdivisions, their own gated communities, their own golf courses. Nothing wrong with that.
So are you of the opinion that integration was bad for us?
I done told you before, there was the worst thing that happened to black people in America versus slavery. Those were the two major problems that black folks have had to deal with, and they are continuing to deal with it. And slavery and the information, the education and training that were dispensed during that period is still with us today. We still hate ourselves. We still want to be like the Europeans. We still want to give them every economic incentive we have. We won't even take advantage of the educational opportunities that are available. We don't want to get into the vocational and technical programs and join the military and learn the skills whether you like it or not, and then come out and have the resources you need to be an independent person.
Or are you saying that we don't like ourselves, Doc?
We do. Historically, we don't like ourselves. I'm talking about a certain percentage of black folks.
Now, Doc, let's think about that for everything, every species in the world. When I look at God's creation, everything there seems to care for its kind. I don't see any bluebirds flying with blackbirds. I don't see the white perch running in a school of bass. I don't see any of that. But it is a requirement for us to try and associate with our oppressor in order to get him to get his foot off of my neck. So maybe that's what we're seeing. It's not that we don't like ourselves. Maybe it's that we figure the way out of the condition that we're in is through association and forgetting of your culture.
No.
Now, and then, Doc, remember, I don't really know what my culture was. When I got brought over here, I got a new language. I got a new religion. I got a new place to stay. I really don't have the history of who I am to be proud of. And you always said they created a new man. And so it's understandable why that new man wants to be white. Would you agree?
I can understand that, of course. And that's where it was designed for you to want to be someone that you're not. Your inner conscience tells you that I want to be strong, I want to be independent. But your actual eyesight, when it's open and surveying your environment, you see everything is owned by others. And then when you try to do something economically, politically, or socially, you're going to find there are so many requirements that you can't meet until you just give up and go and give your resources to the institutions that's already set up. And that's what the Europeans like and want you to do, because when they see that you're reluctant, their job is to put more requirements against you that you can't meet, to be less involved in economics, in politics, in religion, and in education and training. They will determine the policies. They will determine the policies, and every time they see that you are about to make a gain, they're going to first talk about you in a negative manner, put in additional requirements that are going to be higher than the one that you were about to reach, and make it more and more difficult. And here you are striving to meet some European standards when you ought to forget about that and get with your own folks and build your own institution. Certain things that you can have, and even your harsh enemy will come to you. That is, if you have your own bank and your own land and your own money, those three things would make people that hate you want to love you outwardly, but not inwardly. They'll come to you, they beg with you, they want to be with you. Two of them or three of them will even move in your community. And those are the people you have to watch. Those are the spies that's usually sent in by the upper class Europeans.
Now, we're getting ready to go to station break. There are some history lessons here that we're going to keep teaching, and we're going to keep talking about the condition of the African American, how he got to where he is today, and what the forecast is in the future. Now, when we come back after this break, we're going to deal a little bit more in contemporary issues. We're going to talk about how presidential candidates that are running for office now, especially on the Republican side, and then we're going to deal with local issues as it relates to local politicians and the impact that they have on their lives. So we want you to stay tuned, and we'll be right back after this commercial.
Looking for the hottest content in the city of Jackson and surrounding areas? Check out WeBelieveDigital.com. Also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. We Believe Digital Podcast is here for all your podcasting needs.
Hey, have you heard about the Accountable Card? It's more than a card. It's a complete mobile banking service that's accountable to all of us. You'll get a no credit check debit card good anywhere Visa is accepted to make purchases, deposits, even get or transfer cash with an FDIC insured bank account managed from our smartphone app. There's even a pre-approved no interest line of credit if you need emergency cash. So why go to the bank when you can have ours in your pocket? Get accountable. Just download our app today.
The Mississippi Link is an African-American female-owned newspaper with a trusted voice that is highly respected throughout the city, state, and nation. Our motto, keepers of the knowledge for people who speak the truth, since 1993. Link significantly influences the thoughts, attitudes, and buying decisions of its readers. Call us at 601-368-8481 for your advertising needs. If you would like to receive a newspaper in the mail each week, our annual subscription is only $52 per year. That is only $1 per week for you to stay informed regarding many stories that you can only get in the Mississippi Link. Sign up today at themississippilink.com and click on Home Delivery.
Have you had your Earth Blend coffee today? At Earth Blend Coffee, we take pride in offering you the very best of beans across the world, blended and roasted to perfection, giving you superior quality and satisfying and flavorful taste. Experience the world in one cup with Earth Blend Coffee.
To order, visit earthblendcoffee.co now.
Welcome back to Socrates Garrett Live. Like I said earlier in the broadcast, this show will become Doc and Sock in the coming weeks, and we're going to continue to talk about those things that are of real importance to our people. Now, we've dealt primarily with the issue of race and where African Americans came from, why their conditions are such as they are, and we talked about all of the things that are factors on that. But we're going to get away from that for a moment and try and move into what's happening here currently, right here today. And so if you're watching us on YouTube, we want you to go ahead on and share this program with your friends and families. On Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube, and then send us stars on Facebook. And if you're watching us on WeBelieveDigital.com, then enjoy all of the content that's there for you. Now, Doc, presidential races are really the talk of the day right now, and I want to deal with the Republican Party, the President Donald Trump. What is his current situation?
Well, Trump has a very good situation where he can save millions of dollars a week if he can continue to have his adversaries keep him in court, keep him indicted. He will be making more money than he could make if he was out there undisturbed, unviolated, out there trying to raise money. And all he has to do is protest against what the Democrats are doing to and with him. And his people are going to love him more and give him more money than he would be if he had to pay somebody to raise money for him. That man is in a good position politically to change his status, to change the Republican Party. Because in the end, he can do one thing and get those people off his back. All he has to do is get with the Democrat lawyers, get his lawyers together, and they agree that I am going to withdraw out of this presidential race, drop all the charges against me because you don't have evidence that's going to get me prosecuted. Because even if you can find enough to get me prosecuted, I will not serve a day in jail because the current president is going to pardon me and I will have a clear record.
Now, that doesn't make any sense.
It might not, but
why would the current president, who has been the victim of brutal attacks by Trump, pardon him?
Because in just a few months, the current president is going to be under as many brutal attacks, he and his family, as Donald Trump. So when they get in a situation where they have to consider going to jail or not, they want to be pardoned by a Democrat or Republican president. These people in the so-called high economic status, those that have the strong, pervasive political clout, work together, regardless of political party, and they are going to look after each other and continue to dominate.
Hold on. Well, who's looking out for me?
No, there's nobody looking out for you, not even your own people. You have to look out for yourself first, your family second, and then your community, where you are. Start with what you have. Create your own leaders on the local level. Get them to the point where they are trained to move forward in economic development, education and training, and politics.
Now, in the African American houses throughout America, there were 3 pictures there in that house.
That's right.
Jesus Christ, white Jesus.
That's right.
John F. Kennedy.
That's right.
Martin Luther King.
Right.
Those pictures were hanging in black folks' house.
And those first 2 that you mentioned never done anything for black folks. Never.
Well, why would we have the pictures hanging up in the house?
Because we were trained to do that. We were trained to put Jesus there. We were told that John F. Kennedy was another Abraham Lincoln. He was going to help black folks. Kennedy was in office almost 2 years. Didn't do nothing for black folks. We did the research early this week to find out what piece of legislation John F. Kennedy passed for black people. Not one that was significant. Not one. Now, there were a lot of proposals coming to him from Martin Luther King Jr., Dr. King, other civil rights leaders. But he was sitting on those things, had his boys, FBI and his brother, to sabotage the inner workings of the black civil rights movement, and saying, as he would talk to those boys, well, I'm going to research this, I'm going to look at this, I'm going to help you. And he never did anything, and if you could prove it, I would apologize next week in public.
Well, 98% of the black population believes that he was a black savior.
That's right.
And so if he didn't do anything, he really did pull the wool over black folks' eyes in that regard. Now go back and let's deal with it for a minute. If Biden affiliation and associations and allegiance to Trump is so strong that he would pardon him, and Trump's position and his theory about African Americans and shithole countries, etc., means that he really doesn't have any place for me and my kind, we are in serious trouble. There's no one here that's concerned about our quality of life and what's best for the African Americans at the national level. That's frightening.
Why is that frightening, Mr. Socrates?
It's frightening because here we are saying that we got to get out and vote. We got to support these people. We got to hang their pictures up in the wall. So I believe that they had my interests at heart. And it's frightening to learn that I'm a third priority or a 10th priority on their list of priorities of things that they need to work on.
Well, you're 10. You're number 10 at the bottom. And the reason why you think people are supposed to help you, and you're talking about the European leadership, that's what you've been taught to think. Everyone knows in the world that if you are at the top of the mountain, you are not going to be pulling up a lot of opponents up equal with you. There has never been any documents that were passed in the history of America that promoted and enforced equality among the non-European race. Not one document in the history of America, starting from 1547. I don't know if not one that was passed and enforced that generated equity in America among the races. Not one.
So, Mississippi, 40+% of the population is African American in Mississippi currently, yet we don't have any representation when it comes to department heads. When I say not any, we have very small representation. Of 179 department heads, we probably got 5 blacks in the whole state. We got 1 black on the circuit court and 1 black on the Supreme Court, but we're 40% of the state. And from contracting, we get less than 5% of contracts for goods and service. And we are in a bad situation, and I don't know who to turn to because African Americans have turned on themselves. And so they don't seem to have the interests of the black community at heart. I don't know where we turn unless we turn back to the church.
Well, that will help somewhat. But you have to understand, Mr. Socrates, it doesn't make any difference who the black person is that's on these committees and agencies and commissions that you mentioned. You're not going to find not one European American to appoint a black man or woman that's radical on any committee. And if they put 1 or 2 on a committee, they're going to have that lower level position. They will never be in the position of leadership where they can make a decision. Even if they put 1 on that's on a commission or agency and he's on there long enough to be the senior leader, he's going to have to support and promote and report to a commission of his peers, and he is not going to have but 1 vote, and they are going to have at least 2 or more.
So let me ask you this. If there is no current solution to the problem, why don't blacks join the Republican Party?
Well, that would be one of the greatest history makers in the history of America. That's what happened sometime before, when blacks were Republicans. They did well.
You're
And let
telling me
tell you,
that I need to go and become a teammate of the current Governor Tate Reeves.
you're not going to become a teammate of current Governor Tate Reeves. But if black people, up to about 25% of black people in America, join the Republican Party, the white European Americans would be leaving that party and forming another party, just like rats leaving a sinking ship. I guarantee you, that'll take care of that problem. The same thing with addressing the Second Amendment. You know, every Republican, almost in America, most conservatives believe that they should have what I call unlimited ability to own and carry weapons. But if you want to change that law overnight, if 25% of black people in America say, for me and my family, we are going to do like our good, loving American Europeans, we're going to do like my neighbor does in a certain community where I live. I done told you this before. There are 3 of them. He, his wife, and his 3 kids have been trained in self-defense by going to the rifle range since they've been old enough to carry a weapon. And nobody in our community would mess with those folks. And they are European Americans. Nice people, very nice. But you're not going to find anybody in that community going over there knocking on their doors at night, putting leaflets on their mailbox that know those couples. They're very nice people. So if black people start doing the same thing, they will get more respect. If I would know that I could go to your house and violate you, and you're going to pray and ask me over and over, why you hate me? Why you beat me up? Why you taking advantage of me politically, economically, socially? And I tell you, because I can. Because you're a coward. You don't want to fight back. All you want to do is fall down and pray. And I'm coming back tomorrow, and I'm going to do you worse. But when they come back tomorrow, if you defend yourself, they will not come back the next day.
No.
That's common sense.
No.
That's equity right there, sir.
I agree with you. I believe that you ought to defend yourself and your kind. I believe in Marcus Garvey's theory, so don't get twisted. Marcus said that you first ought to have allegiance to your God, to your family, to your race, and then to your country. He put it in that order. And I believe in that. So I don't have any duplicitous thoughts in my body as to who I am and where I need to be trying to make life better for them. But strategy-wise, I'm not sure we're on the same page. Blacks join the Republican Party. First of all, every black that joins the Republican Party in the state of Mississippi is going to be ridiculed, laughed at, and going to be talked about by all of the blacks that are not doing anything, but they are then going to become active.
Well, let me tell you, now that's good. Because those blacks that are being talked about by other blacks, that's going to make 2 things happen. The first one I already told you. The white Europeans or the white Mississippians or the white Georgians going to leave by a certain percent. They're going to leave the Republican Party. And the blacks, that 75% that's in the Democrat Party, going to find that they are going to have more ability to control the commissions, the agencies, make appointments, and be able to have majority vote in a lot of different areas of the state and the nation, which will give them more visibility, show that they have great ability to be leaders, and then the black people in Asia and Africa and India and others will have more respect for themselves, and especially in Africa. They have 55 nations in Africa, and I told you before, they own and have everything they need to be the most dominant continent in the history of the world, and don't control nothing.
No.
Don't control a thing, can't even feed themselves. Every time they get ready to do something, the Europeans call certain leaders together, give them weapons, tell them to go and have a coup and start fighting, and then they send their other boys in to start taking care of the economic development of those African nations, taking the gold, the diamonds. That's what the Europeans do. The Russians are doing the same.
Wow.
The Chinese are doing the same. And it just as I've been telling you for years, black people in Mississippi better learn Spanish. Black people in Africa better learn Chinese and Russian. Black people in the Middle East, and there are a lot of them in the Middle East and Asia, better start learning similar languages.
Why is that?
Because those countries are going to take over overtly in the next 5 to 25 years, and those blacks that in those countries, including the United States, going to be relegated to a position of subserviency, more so than they are today.
Oh, I'm going to become a slave again?
Not a slave by law, but a slave by lack of opportunity and lack of access to get in a position economically, politically, and socially where you can be independent.
So currently I am a slave.
Well, you can call it that if you want to use the word, but slavery has a designation as one that's been constitutionally proclaimed. You're not constitutionally proclaimed a slave currently, but you have been mandated through various policies, rules, mandates, and statutes by the state and the nation.
I get you. So the policy has put the same shackles on me that slavery did.
Exactly.
Well, why do I need to speak Spanish?
Well, you need to speak Spanish because the Spanish, those that are not very colored, are considered white people.
Whoa.
And they got so many Hispanics in America, including in Mississippi, and even the FBI, the CIA, the attorney generals, and even the president don't even know how many they have. They got so many here until, and the Hispanics know it, in a few years they're going to give all those boys and girls amnesty. And they're going to have to start looking at getting out of those orange groves. Stop picking all that lettuce, because they're going to have equal rights to vote and start their own businesses. They don't have to hide. And those that are here as aliens now, and what I call illegal aliens and immigrants that are working like slaves, sending half of their money to Mexico, Honduras, and other places, they're going to have that money because all their friends and relatives coming to America, and they are going to be running and winning positions in politics. They're going to start more businesses. They're going to have more money because they are going to sell their products to each other, and they are going to buy from each other. And the few things that's left in the black community, which is not much, others control 90% of the economic viability in the black community. When the Hispanics become real citizens in America, we are going to be having less than 5% of control in our community. And that's why you better learn Spanish, because I'm telling you now, if you all don't start changing and start saying that you're a real American, that you're a black American, you are not going to be in a position of any kind of negotiating with others.
Hold your thought, Doc. Hold your thought. That's some heavy stuff. I need a moment. We're going to go to commercial break. We're going to go to commercial break so I can digest my need to become fluent in Spanish and associate with Hispanics. This is Socrates Garrett Live on We Believe Digital Broadcasting Network. We're going to a station break and we'll be right back. Stay tuned.
Looking for the hottest content in the city of Jackson and surrounding areas? Check out WeBelieveDigital.com. Also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. We Believe Digital Podcast is here for all your podcasting needs.
Hey, have you heard about the Accountable Card? It's more than a card. It's a complete mobile banking service that's accountable to all of us. You'll get a no credit check debit card good anywhere Visa is accepted to make purchases, deposits, even get or transfer cash with an FDIC insured bank account managed from our smartphone app. There's even a pre-approved no interest line of credit if you need emergency cash. So why go to the bank when you can have ours in your pocket? Get accountable. Just download our app today.
The Mississippi Link is an African American female-owned newspaper with a trusted voice that is highly respected throughout the city, state, and nation. Our motto, keepers of the knowledge for people who speak the truth, since 1993. Link significantly influences the thoughts, attitudes, and buying decisions of its readers. Call us at 601-368-8481 for your advertising needs. If you would like to receive a newspaper in the mail each week, our annual subscription is only $52 per year. That is only $1 per week for you to stay informed regarding many stories that you can only get in the Mississippi Link. Sign up today at themississippiLink.com and click on Home Delivery.
Have you had your Earthblend coffee today? At Earthblend Coffee, we take pride in offering you the very best of beans across the world, blended and roasted to perfection, giving you superior quality and satisfying and flavorful taste. Experience the world in one cup with Earthblend Coffee.
To order, visit earthblendcoffee.co now.
Are you dreaming? Becoming an entrepreneur, but you're not sure where or how to start? At Entrepreneurs Academy 101, our online program will guide you step by step on how to start and grow your own business. We offer courses such as how to write a business plan, how to create a budget, and so much more. Our online training program is designed for you to learn at your own pace, and there's no set order to complete this program. Because our academy is online, you have the choice to learn with a group, with friends, or individually. Upon completion of the entire curriculum, you will receive a certificate of achievement to acknowledge that you have completed the training needed to become a successful entrepreneur. So enroll today to design the life that you love. Contact your entrepreneur coach, Brenda Myers, at 601-672-0695 or visit our website at www.entrepreneursacademy101.com for more information.
Welcome back to Socrates Garrett Live, to become Doc and Soc in the coming weeks. We're going to be talking about some things like we're talking about right now. Some of the things that Doc is saying and describing are troubling for me. Some of these things that I just don't want to think that Black America is in a downward spiral of that nature, that we've fallen from grace in the eyes of people across the world. And when I see people uniting, when I see Putin and the Emperor of Korea, Kim Jong, having their press conference and their meeting, I wonder what's going on. I wonder exactly where do I fit in this puzzle as an African American. Where do I fit?
You don't fit, sir. You do not fit in that puzzle in a positive manner. You have nothing to do with that puzzle in a positive manner. You're not even regarded as a positive in that interference.
I'm here. I have to fit somewhere. I'm physically in my space.
You've always been physically in your space from 1547 up until today, but you have not been a significant person nor a contributor to society in the eyes of others. You've always been an outcast. You have always been a member of an outclass society where you've been dictated to in all activities of your life from birth to death.
But my kind does not feel that way about me, I hope.
No, well, they don't. Most of them don't.
Okay, good. So when I see these two leaders coming together, it sends a warning to America, in my opinion, that something is going on here. I mean, I know that Trump went to visit Korea, and I know that Biden said that he would meet with Kim Jong, and I see that him and Putin are there and embracing one another and talking about arms deals that between the two countries. And we know the relationship between the U.S. and Russia at the moment. And I'm sitting over here in Mississippi, and I'm struggling. and I'm wondering, where I fit, and how can I make a difference, and how can I stabilize my world? And you're saying that I'm totally irrelevant.
To those leaders, to those upper crust leaders, you are irrelevant and insignificant. They care nothing about you or us as a race. They're looking for economic power. They're looking for domination of the world. And they are looking at an opportunity where they can make all the policies and have eventually a one world government after they have that big clash where there's going to be fire next time. And then they will have a one world government. And after maybe 200 or 300 years, that's going to disappear.
So am I relevant in my home state of Mississippi?
Well, you will be.
I'm talking about to the governor, state raised, and the lieutenant governor.
You don't have to go any farther. No.
Am I relevant to them?
No.
No.
I don't see any evidence that you are. I see no political evidence. I don't see any economic evidence. I don't see any deals where you are being invited to come and give them advice on what should happen in your city, in your state. They are determining all the rules and regulations through the legislature. You're not called to testify. You tell me, how many times have you been called to the Senate or to the House to testify on what's good for blacks in America, or blacks in Mississippi, or just blacks in Jackson? How many black people you know, or black women included, that's been there, that was specifically called to come and testify on a specific subject other than equity and inclusion?
I don't even hear anybody convening any meetings or sessions where they discuss the issues that are important to us.
That's the problem.
But we have the largest representation of black elected officials in the country. So you would think that somebody down there is being invited to talk about what's best for us.
Well, that's what you're saying. You should think it ought to be happening. It is not happening, and it's not going to happen.
Well, why don't all blacks just resign and just walk out of the Capitol? If we can't have effective representation and make a difference, why don't we sit there and act like we're doing something?
Well, those guys have status, sir. If you're a senator, if you're a member of the House, you're in that 10%. You're in the black upper crust. You are important in your community. You can wear a real tight collar. You can ride in a nice car. You can have a credit card with $40,000 on it. You can live in a suburb. You can send your child to private school if you call your grandmother and your grandfather to give you $10,000 to help put that child in private school. You can help your child get a brand new car when she is 16 or 17 to go to that private school, so you won't have to take them. You can't go and start pretending you have some political power, economic power, when you owe every European in Jackson, Mississippi, in the nation and the world. You have no independence. You are dependent on any decision they might make that's going to impact you, because you don't have the ability nor the will to get with your associates in the House, in the Senate, in the state level, and just walk out and leave a team of 3 to 5 there with proposals saying, these are the reasons why we object to what's going on.
Wow. So let's move then into the area where we have control in our city governments, where we have an African-American mayor and we have majority African-Americans on the city council. 5 out of 7 members are African-American. In our board of supervisors, we have 100% cadre of African-Americans down there. So there you would think that we ought to be experiencing tremendous growth.
Mr. Socrates, you and many others have a problem with numbers and the word control. Control means that you have the decision-making ability to determine your destiny from birth to death. You have the ability to manage and spend the money. You have the ability to hire people that's going to help you do things that you can't do. And you have the ability to vote on policy and economic power and to issue contracts. I don't know any black politicians in Hinds County or in the state of Mississippi that have that kind of power. I don't know of any. Now, they do give a few blacks an allocation to do a few things if they're on the regional level, but they're not going to give them equity in their financial distributions as they will the others. For instance, if you're in a regional agency in the highway department, or if you have another job where you consider a regional executive, for instance, like Benny Thompson, you're not going to find nobody giving Benny Thompson district a lot of money to provide for education and training initiatives. They're not going to do that. They're going to pass legislation where the rich people in District 2 and Mr. Thompson District to get more money for agriculture and business development, not education and training, not leadership development.
I get that, but Benny, you know, it's a big old district and white folks rule agriculture and things of that nature. I don't know if there are any black farmers anymore, quite frankly.
A few.
But where we are in control, we have 5 members on the Board of Supervisors. We are in control. Now, you say I know numbers.
In control of what, Mr.
You say
Socrates?
I know numbers, but I don't know where control is. Well, when I elected them to go down there, I elected them to go down there to be in control. Charles Evans said for years before he died, when you are in charge, be in charge. Be in charge. You trying to tell me that there is some invisible hand that is running the puppet strings on the people we sit down there, and therefore they can't do nothing?
Of course. You know it. You just don't want to admit to it.
Well,
They have no independence down there. Anywhere you have the blacks in the majority in politics, they do not have the independence they need to do 2 things, and that is to hire high-powered specialists and assign the taxpayers' money to the people that really deserves it, and I'm talking about qualified people. They don't have that ability. They have to get permission from others, and all of them I know except one will tell me that I'm wrong, and this person will tell me in private. The others will pretend that it doesn't happen. But when you talk to people, look at things that's happening, and read the budget, and look at the contracts, you will find that certain people just don't have any power. That's what we call an illusion of power. And that's why I say numbers and power are different things. You can have 99% of someone on a board or a commission, and there's one person that's pulling the strings going to tell you what to do. That one person is the power.
Now, Doc, we recently elected 3 new board members for Hinds County. Those 3 people are sent down there to be in control. They have not been indoctrinated by anyone. They're just arriving. What ought they do?
Well, there is something they ought to do, and they should have already met to do it. Those 3 should have already said, we are new incumbents starting in January. We're going to be considered the supervisor. The 3 of us right now, even though we don't know what's going to happen on November the 7th when they have their general election, we 3 are going to get together and decide which one of us is going to be president of the county supervisors, even though you have 2 current incumbents, Mr. Graham and Mr. Bobcat, already in office. Then we're going to lobby with those 2 to look at our agenda, and we're going to do our best to vote as a unit on all major deals and allocations that we make in this county. We want to have a 4 or 5 vote like the city of Jackson did just the other day on the budget. They don't vote together on very many things. They had a unanimous vote. And that's what the county supervisors. You're not going to have the county supervisors in Hinds County working if they get one of those current supervisors as president of the county supervisors in Hinds County. But those 3 new ones can change that by saying, we are unified, we're going to be for all the people, we're going to work together on programs in each district, and we're going to do our best to have a 4 or 5 vote on every item of expenditure that we allocate. We're going to have so many millions set aside for contracts, and we're going to give contracts to qualified individuals that have not been getting contracts in Hinds County, regardless of the fact that some people might have been getting the same contract for 35 or 40 years.
Now, Doc, let me help with that, because it's critically important. The 3 new supervisors that we just recently elected. As Doc say, you guys ought to be meeting currently, today, talking about how you're going to make a difference, because we voted for change. We voted for change, and we're going to have to see evidence of that change. So you need to be planning right now how you're going to impact and make a change. It's critically important. Now, to my European brothers out there, blacks in Jackson, Mississippi, and throughout the state of Mississippi are poor. We don't have any economy in our communities. You gotta institute policies and procedures that allow black folk to share some of the largesse in the economy. We cannot continue to do and get 2% of contracts for goods and services out the state, in the county, and the city. You cannot create policies that mandate that. We're getting to a point in time where the pendulum has swung and the gap is so wide between the have and the have-nots until we're getting where we got unrest. And that unrest breeds crime and failed marriages and families and schools, and we're at a point that Doc says that we are totally irrelevant, but an irrelevant person is still here. And that person will survive by any means necessary. So we gotta stop this, Doc. We gotta have leadership that says, white folk gotta say, I want 30% of the contracts for goods and services to go into the black community.
They're not going. Why would they say that? I wouldn't say it if I was getting 90% of them. But see, I'm just realistic. A lot of you black folks are not realistic. If I was getting from 90 to 95% of the contracts, I'm not going to tell anybody that I want to get 30%. You got to take it from me. I'm not going to give it to you. That's what them white folks told the Northerners during the Civil War. Said, boy, we ain't going to turn these slaves loose, you fools. You think we're going to work? We want to delegate.
Doc, how am I going to take it from you when I'm so disenfranchised and when I'm so divided in my army, in my community, in my race? How am I going to take something from anybody?
Well, you've got to understand, Mr. Socrates, that if you have the ability to be in a position, you have to be smart enough to build coalitions where you can be in control and make decisions. Now, getting back to these supervisors, I want you and the other listeners to know the Hinds County supervisor race is not over yet. There's still a possibility that there are going to be a new 1 or 2 supervisors. They got 3. They got a new man coming in and a former supervisor that's going to be running against Mr. Anthony Smith that had a position as a supervisor. So, you know, he beat Mr. Archer by a high vote. Now, we're looking for the information to see who voted for Mr. Smith. And I'm not going to talk about my suspicions. So they have someone that has more training in government than Mr. Smith. He is a great man. He's a former businessman, man with integrity. But he does not have the clout of this secret man that's going to be and has already appeared that's going to be running for office on November the 7th, I believe, or 11th.
How and why would you call him a secret man?
Because I'm not going to mention his name on this show. I want the people that's listening to go and do the research and find out who is going to run against Mr. Smith. And then Mr. Bobcat has an opponent or 2. Just because he is supervisor now, he is not guaranteed to be the supervisor after November. It's highly likely, but it's possible that he might not.
So we are going to have to put all our cards on the table.
That's right.
We're not going to have secret men and secret women. We're going to have to put all our cards on the table, and we're going to have one agenda as black folk.
Of course.
And until we do that, it's impossible for us to take anything from anybody. Right now, black folks can't take an economy from black folk. And so we really got to deal with this issue. Now, we're coming to the end of our program. I think that you say that there is a solution, and always we got to give our folk a solution. How can black folks change their condition?
Sir, it can be done in 30, 60, 90 days if they form a coalition among themselves, create their own leaders, train them, identify them, recruit them, pool their economic resources, get their leaders that are not currently in positions of responsibility, young people from 16 to 30, get them trained, put them in positions of responsibility on committees and agencies and boards of control, allow them to run for the legislature, those that are old enough, fund and support them to run for city councils and board of aldermen, fund them to run for sheriff in Hinds County and other counties, give them the funds and support to run for judgeships. We have a lot of young people in Mississippi and Jackson that have law degrees that's under 30, and on and on. So you got to get new people, get some new soldiers in your army that you have trained, and they will not rebel and work with the what we call the talented 10th that's already in positions of responsibility, which they don't have.
Well, we're going to continue to deal with the solutions to our problems, and one of the things that Doc always says, and I got to repeat it for him, where you are in the majority, Doc, you always talk about that. What should we do?
Well, it's very simple. Wherever you're in the majority, anywhere in the world, black people need to control 5 areas of activity from birth to death, where to do the hiring and spending the money and make the policy, in education and training, religion, leadership, economic development, and politics. If you don't control those areas where you're in the majority, someone else going to control it. And that's what they're supposed to do.
Well, that's not what we're going to let them do. But now we'll come to the end of our program. Now we're going to take these 5 areas that Doc has outlined, and we're going to deal with them. On the upcoming show, we're going to take the subject of religion. We're going to talk about religion, its origin, its controlling factors, where it's going, who runs it, how religions are making a difference or the lack of a difference in our communities. And we're going to deal with that. Then we're going to take the other 4 that he outlined, and we're going to deal with that. And we're going to have some guests on our programs, and we're going to invite some of our religious leaders to join us in a discussion, if they are so brave, to be able to discuss real conversations about the impact of religion in our communities. And to the families of the folk that were killed in a brutal crash in Mississippi in a chase by the Jackson Police Department and the Capitol Police Department that ended in the loss of 3 lives. That's got to be a better way. That's got to be a better way. But yet, in our community, I haven't heard one politician, one elected official say one word about that tragedy.
What about the preachers? You heard the preachers say anything? Significant preachers say anything about it?
No.
What about significant businessmen, black businessmen?
No.
Have you heard them say anything?
No. What did that tell you?
That tells me that they are afraid to talk about it because they want to keep their little status unblemished.
You heard him. Doc is the most sought-after speaker in this part of the country. If you need a guest speaker for your churches, your schools, your community organization, you got to reach out to him. Give him that number, Doc.
Well, Mr. Sock, that number is 601-201-1957. And of course, you can email us at clu369@gmail.com, and all you have to do is tell us the date you need us, the number of people you expect, your economic status of your clients or the people that's going to be in attendance, and whether they are poor, middle class, or rich. And we also want you to know that if you want to see what we have done, just Google YouTube and We Believe, and you'll see what we have been talking about. But folks, the new information is we can't even tell you on this show and the other shows the real things that we will talk about and tell you what to do in 30, 60, 90 days, because it's so pervasive and so corrective, you wouldn't believe it. And we don't want the human enemies of mankind to know all of our strategies that you will be using on a local level with your own leadership after you pool your resources. And that's what black folks do. They go and talk all the time in these big hotels and conferences and let the people that own the hotel and the conference record their information, even in their private board meetings. I don't believe in that. So if you need to hear how to solve problems in 30, 60, 90 days, that's guaranteed, call us, 601-201-1957. That's it, Mr. Socrates.
Doc, it was always good to be in the studio with you. We're looking forward to Doc and Socrates coming very shortly, and we want everyone out there to stay safe and have a good evening. Good night.